Okay, good.
Okay.
So you want to brief us? You had a marvelous speech on the podium just now.
Oh, thank you.
You want to give us a highlight of the expectations for the trades between Canada and China?
Well, I think that ever since the Prime Minister's visit to China last year, that we set a new framework for collaboration and increased trade with China, with the signing of some important agreements like the approved destination status, the post-educational education program, and a number of other things like the comparability study and the FIPA agreement. So these were very instrumental, I think, in increasing trade with China quite a bit, as we know, in by 5 billion in 2011, 5 billion again on top of that in 2012, and even this year, for the first half of the year, we're at 10 billion. So that's a lot of increases over a very short time. And I think that one of the key messages that we want to give is that China is interested in Canada, which is wonderful. You know, I think we've been good trading partners for a long time. And as I said, you know, Canada and China has had relationships for over 150 years when the Chinese first came to Canada, and helped build Canada as a country. But in addition to that, I think Canada has been a good friend to China in that we recognized, we were one of the first countries to officially recognize China, modern China, during the time. And we've had very iconic Canadian figures like Norman Bethune go and help China in its time of need. So the two countries, I think, have always been very compatible, have worked on major issues together, and we would like to see the trade increase, of course, and so that the communities in Canada and in China can all flourish and grow.
Yeah, talking about the trade increasement, any particular industry you foresee that will see a huge increase?
Well, I think that one of the things that we saw in just our Governor General trip to China last week was an agreement that was signed with Bombardier. And so that cemented again, you know, aerodynamics in space and sorry, not space, but in the aeronautics industry, and the fact that they're going to be now building some of these engines in China, as well as selling the Bombardier brand in China. And so that's very exciting for us because that's a huge market. And in addition to that, as we know, the Chinese populations are traveling a lot. So within China, there's going to be, I think, a lot more travel and the need for planes as well as the between different countries. We're also opening up the Blue Skies Agreement, which is part of our Open Skies overall framework, and that is to increase air travel between our two countries. And that's what we're calling the connectivity between not just increasing flights and making it more easier for business people, students, families to travel back and forth, but also, in addition to that, the connectivity is around people to people. Between our post-secondary education program, where we're encouraging more Chinese students to come and study in Canada, and also encouraging more Canadians to study in China.
Yeah, talking about this open air policy, Vancouver Airport, they were talking about, you know, they do foresee a huge increase coming from China, and meanwhile, the Chinese airlines do want Canada maybe open more, like a visa, give like visa exemptions to third country, then they might be able to increase that business. Do you foresee that Conservative government might be working more on that?
Well, as I said in tonight's speech, in fact, the Conservative government has, you know, increased the speed and the efficiency of the visa process. So therefore, just in the last year alone, we had over 235,000 visas between, you know, for Chinese people to come to Canada. And so that's quite a significant number. And when you look at that in the context of we are also processing and approving some 265,000 immigrants a year to come to Canada as well, and along with all the other, you know, skilled foreign trades and all of that. So actually, I think that for a very small country, which Canada is, we are, in fact, the per capita most welcoming country in the world. And so I think that again, is something that we're very proud of, given the economic difficulties in the last few years, when many other countries actually decreased their immigration, and we kept ours at the same high level.
And for the foreign investment agreement between Canada and China, which particular area you foresee there will be a big increase?
Well, again, we were talking about Bombardier and planes. I think there's going to be a big increase, but I think we foresee also a lot in the agri-food business. what we're doing next week, in fact, is I'm leading a delegation. I'm the co-chair of the Canada-China Legislative Association, and I'm leading a delegation of MPs and senators to actually travel to China to meet with our Chinese counterparts to talk about food security. I think that that's something that they're very interested in, because in Canada we have very high standards for food security. We also have systems in place and procedures, and we also have programs such as our Gate to Plate program, where we know now, where exactly that cow or that pig was raised on that farm, and we can track that all the way to the supermarket where people go and buy that steak or that bacon. So I think that these things are very interesting for the Chinese, and it's something that they're interested in, so we are going there to meet with them to discuss that. We're also going to be discussing peaceful development, and this is something, again, where we're trying to review and promote our CETA programs and, for development, to ensure that that those have outcomes that are tangible, and that are things that we can actually know that we're reaching our outcomes. So these are very important things that I think we're going to be sharing with our Chinese counterparts next week.
And one of the biggest investment we see coming from China is relies on natural resource. However, in this particular industry, like earlier this year, we heard about the Chinese foreign worker labor issues, and there are quite a bit like business owner tonight. They were talking about, they do have the intention to invest, but they are concerned if there's no more opening seats on trying to attract more foreign workers. So do you see there is a possibility for the federal government to revisit this foreign worker program, maybe set up some special rules or special criteria for Chinese foreign workers?
Well, I think it's well known that the skills trade is an area that Canada is particularly open about and wanting skilled trades to come to Canada. But we also have to be very cautious of the fact that Canada is one of the leading countries in mining. We have very skilled workers here. We have a number of mines internationally around the world, and I've been fortunate enough to have been to Kenya, I've been to China, I've been to a number of different countries, and Canada is well recognized internationally as being one of the leaders in mining. So I guess the issue is when we had this issue around the 200 foreign workers working in a mine in Canada, we want to ensure that those jobs go to Canadians first, that there's due process, so that if there aren't the workers in Canada, then of course, we need to bring those skills in. But if there are workers in Canada, that they should have first crack at those jobs. And I think that that was a small step that was sort of overlooked in this instance, and it was a bit of an issue that we needed to deal with, and we did. And I think that once that's clarified and people know the rules of how we do things in Canada, that would make it a lot easier.
Yeah, my last question will be the BC LNG project. Do you see that project will be successful? Some people locally were saying we look like we're putting everything in one basket.
Well, I don't think we're putting everything in one basket. I mean, it's a very big project. It's, hopefully going to be a very good project, because we know that liquid natural gas is a very clean energy source, and that's something that certainly in BC we want to promote, and we want to share with other countries around the world. And certainly that's something that China and Japan and different countries are very interested in, just because of their energy issues, And we all know, and China knows too, that coal burning is really not good for the environment. And so I guess the question that I have for people that are really worried and concerned about this is, if we really want to have an impact on lowering our emissions internationally, okay, one of the key things that we should be encouraging is the use of liquid natural gas, because it's a cleaner energy source. And so therefore, I mean, if we're in a position to supply it, which we are, then I think it's something that we need to be considering to help the global warming issue.
Anything else you wanted to add?
I think I just want to say that it was a pleasure seeing you again, as always, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Yes.
Great.